And here in Africa, Mali's interim president, Assimi Goïta, is safe and sound, his office announced after he had been attacked on Tuesday by two armed men, one of whom wielded a knife in the great mosque in the capital, Bamako. The attack took place during prayers for the Islamic festival of Eid al-Adha. Goïta was taken from the scene, according to the journalist, who said it was not immediately clear whether he had been wounded. An official at the presidency later said Goïta is safe and sound, and President Goïta arrived at the military camp of Kati outside the capital, where security has been reinforced. Religious Affairs Minister Mamadou Kone said that a man had tried to kill the president with a knife, but was apprehended. Latus Touré, the director of the mosque, said an attacker had launched at the president, but wounded someone else. Global Affairs Analyst Paul Ejime joins me on the news from the UK. Good to have you join us, Paul Ejime.
Thank you for having me.
So this latest blow to the stability in Mali, does it come as a shock to you?
Not really, because if you remember, Mali has become associated with this chronic insecurity and instability, and what has happened was just further demonstration of the fragility of the political system in that country. There was a very terrible breach, security breach, that allowed two men to get into the worship center at the Grand Mosque. And actually there was blood seen, and actually maybe somebody and not the target was hit, because Colonel Goïta himself, he has come on national TV to say that he was okay, and the Prime Minister Maiga has also spoken. The fact that he, being a member of a special force, I think maybe he tried to prevent that knife from getting to him. That was what happened. But it could have been fatal. It could have been, Mali could have been talking about an assassination. Remember Chad, neighboring Chad, and then remember also that this is a country that has seen two military coups in 9 months. So it is more becoming a character and what is associated with Mali. But so sad, because there's so much goodwill that maybe what is required, well, maybe we'll get to what is the way forward.
All right, so before we get there, after the second coup, the AU and ECOWAS suspended Mali. We saw France also suspend military cooperation with Mali. The US also suspended security assistance to Mali. Do you think that this is largely viewed as a whittling down of the power of Assimi Goïta that perhaps has made him vulnerable to these kind of attacks?
In a way, well, I think those were the pressure that was international pressure that was supposed to be mounted to make them see reason and maybe respect the transition program that they have brought on. But it will also be a complication of the issue if somebody else takes over from Goïta, because the military has not shown that they are through with governance in Mali, and that is one thing. Military should subject themselves to civil rule, to democratic, those who are elected. But you see, Goïta and his men, they took out, they removed Keïta from government, and he also removed the president of the transition, and literally imposed himself. The fact that ECOWAS and AU didn't do anything to that, because they didn't do it. And in the transition government, 4 key positions for defense, national, justice, and a lot of national, territorial ministry. They are under the portfolios are occupied by the military. So it is a quasi-military administration that is going on in Mali. And that is not what people want. But what is the way forward? Yes, we talk about, let's talk about these suspensions. Mali, I don't think France is not happy apparently, from what is happening. And it is not known whether it is because Malian military is seen to be moving towards Russia. Because in 2020 or 2019, they signed a pact, a cooperation pact. Whether France is unhappy because usually former colonial colonies in Africa, French colonies, are supposed to maintain a kind of symbiotic relationship with them. So when they now see any other country coming in, like China or Russia, that raises question whether that is not what the military in Mali is suffering. But for God's sake, Mali and other Francophone countries have been independent for almost 60 years. This issue of depending on external forces, for their defense, it is not helping them. It has not helped and can never help. I think the earlier, these countries are left on their own, let them make the mistake of in democratic governance. Make mistake and then correct the mistake.
Isn't that
from there?
Mr. Paul Ejime, isn't that a problem with that interventionist policy of foreign countries? We see what is happening in Afghanistan. The U.S. is pulling out, but it doesn't look like Afghan forces can wield or can stand against the Taliban. So isn't that a challenge when it comes to interventionist policies of foreign powers?
Well, let's look at it. For how long has that happened? When the intervention becomes too prolonged, remember the Russians were there before. They were thrown out. Every other person has gone. The Americans are now gone. Leave the Afghanistans to handle their own domestic problem. After, all the bloodletting and everything, they will now come back because who will the Taliban govern if they manage to kill everybody? It will dawn on them that nobody owes them a living. And they are the ones that are best suited to solve their own problem. And the same thing should happen in Africa. This idea of coming from time to time, because what happens is that governments that comes, you are propping up individuals. Look at Chad. Idris Deby was spending more on defense than any other thing. And the country is a poor country. The same thing, when these people are in power, they use this support, military support, to boost their own political base at the expense of the other people. They are not addressing the issue of governance, the well-being of the people, providing infrastructure. There is poverty, there is unemployment, and so on and so forth. And by the way, UN forces are still there, about 15,000 of them are there. France says they are reducing their force in the region, in the Sahel, from 5,100 to maybe 2,000 or 3,000. That has not changed the question. Yes, it can tilt the balance of power. It can maybe facilitate these insurgencies or these jihadist forces for a while. But who also provided this background? By killing Gaddafi in Libya. This is part of the source of this problem. And it is because of this intervention. So
let's talk about the problem. Mr. Paul Ejime, you rightly noted that the killing of Gaddafi also generated security issues for the rest of Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. But let's look at the challenges with this attempted assassination, as it's now being called. You called it a security breach. We see what's happening in Haiti, where the president, Jovenel Moïse, was assassinated. And a lot of citizens now are wondering if you can reach the president. Who am I as a simple citizen not to be afraid for my life? And so we see the number of people asking for passports to leave the country or visas have increased. How then can the people of Mali be assured when it comes to security in that country? And what role should the AU and ECOWAS and all I know Mali has been suspended, but what role can they play to ensure that there is a level of assurance of security for the Malian people or the Mali people?
Yes, the responsibility for the security of any country, first and foremost, rests with the citizens of that country, starting from the ordinary citizen to the government and all the paraphernalia of government. The others, foreigners can only assist. But you cannot put a superstructure on a weak structure. No matter, otherwise it will amount to invasion. You see what happened in Iraq. You see what happened in Libya that we're talking about, and then Afghanistan. It doesn't last. Leave the people. If you're assisting, if ECOWAS and the AU or France is assisting, it has to be based on mutuality. But, being able, the interest of the people of the country must be supreme. It is not the interest of the intervening of political former colonial power or imperialism. If you don't take into account the welfare and the interests of the citizens, this is what you get. The whole place is now become a war zone, a killing field. And it shouldn't be like that. So let the national, the responsibility, like I said, rest with them. They should be the ones to take care of they have to take their destiny in their own hands.
We'll see how Assimi Goita reassures his people of their security in the coming days. Global Affairs Analyst Ejime, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.